Proposed draft legislation to legalise recreational marijuana use and cultivation in what could be one of the most liberal cannabis laws in Europe. For more, we're joined by Deutsche Welle's Kassandra Sundt from Berlin. Kassandra, hello to you. What is the status of this legislation then? What does it say?
Well, right now this is just a draft bill, and it was put forward on Wednesday. And the coalition's plan essentially the slogan for the plan translates to legal, and that very much is the overarching thesis of this strategy. It's essentially going to be legal under these rules for those over 18, but there's going to be many hoops that people have to jump through. So one of the first hoops is that there's going to be these so-called cannabis social clubs. Now, each club could have a maximum of 500 members. Any resident over the age of 18 would be allowed to join just one, not more than one. And that's where you could get homegrown cannabis products for personal use. Adults would be able to possess up to 25 grams for personal use. Now, these clubs would have to be non-profits, and this is all part of the decriminalization step. Later, there is talk about specialist shops which would sell cannabis and products containing THC, but that would only be in select districts and cities. A few other highlights here of this proposed legislation would be there would not be any advertising allowed of cannabis, and residents would be able to grow 3 plants for their own personal use. And even though these new rules have been proposed by the ruling coalition, that isn't a guarantee it will pass Parliament, where there have already been some grumblings about this legislation.
And then to this proposed law.
There were arguments that many people were probably familiar with, that decriminalizing or legalizing marijuana would be a gateway, especially for young people. But there is some unity from a few different groups here. There was a joint statement, for example, from 5 associations of physicians for children and young people. They're warning of, quote, a threat to the mental health and development opportunities of young people in Germany. There was also a statement from the German Association of Judges, who have warned against extra work for the judiciary due to the many detailed regulations that will be imposed upon these cannabis clubs about the delivery of the drug. And of course, police unions are also opposed to the bill. On the political side, conservative lawmakers who are not in the federal ruling coalition, by the way, have started attacking it, complaining the project is, quote, medically irresponsible, and even went as far as to say it's, quote, an attack on youth and health protections.
Supporters, though, of the proposed bill are also concerned. Why?
One interesting complaint here is Germany seems to want to reinvent the wheel instead of learning from peer economies about what's already working. The social clubs aspect of this, for example, is a little odd because you wouldn't even be able to consume cannabis on the premises, so it's not very social. And the limitations on where these facilities can go are pretty dense. For example, the clubs cannot be within 200 meters of schools, daycare centers, or kindergartens, which, for example, in a densely populated city like Berlin are everywhere. Proponents of the for-profit markets are also saying that the German government is leaving millions, if not billions of euros in potential tax revenue just on the table. But Germany, the government has been really transparent here. They're taking a different tact. They don't want any for-profit weed farms or smoking lounges or stores like you see in Canada or U.S. states like Colorado or Washington. They've been transparent. They're not trying to build up an industry. They're trying to defang the black market. That's because, as it stands right now, surveys say at least hundreds of thousands of people consume cannabis in Germany. Originally, there were high expectations for tax revenue and savings, but some revised estimates now say that this legislation could save hundreds of thousands of euros for the German government. And critics have already popped up from the Chancellor's own party, saying that this could have the unintended consequence of increasing usage of marijuana and cannabis instead of just taking some air out of the black market. But stepping back and considering these criticisms, the health minister, Karl Lauterbach, who debuted the legislation this week, he said that he considers the fact that he's being critiqued from both sides to be a good sign.
Still some way off, though, I think. Kassandra Sundt from Deutsche Welle, thank you. Tributes.